Let's check the feed. Shalom. All right, Shalom. Before I get started with this live lesson, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm back with another live lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakakwadash. I pray that this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect out there that's watching and tuning in and being edified through these videos. All right. So another news and prophecy. Wartime heavy headlines. All right. So just want to go through a few headlines that came out yesterday, today, or whatnot, all dealing with the act of war. All right. So if you haven't been paying attention, all right, go check out the news online, on TV. Everything is centered around war. And that's what I want to get into here. Now, before we get into the main thing dealing with Trump and what's going on, Venezuela and Iran and different parts of the world, I want to touch on this real quick. Because again, news and prophecy, wartime heavy headlines. All right. So right here from the Epoch Times, it says ICE announces historic 120% increase in manpower. Right. It says ICE said that thousands of newly hired agents and officers have already been deployed nationwide and are actively supporting enforcement operations. All right. So they're beefing up ICE as they've been doing. They're getting more recruits, more Edomites. Okay. Because what's happening is that the war is being prepared against Jake, as we know. Real quick before we get into it. As we bring out time and seasons for everything, right? This is Ecclesiastes 3. And we'll read to the point. Ecclesiastes 3:1. And it reads, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. All right. And what time and season are we in? We're at the end of Babylon, man. We're at the end. We're in the season finale of America, man. Babylon the Great. Okay. Everything is set up to go to total disaster. Right. So that's the time we in right now. To everything, there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up which is planted. Right. And we're in the time of America being plucked up from the roots. Okay. A time to kill. Verse 3, a time to kill. It's in a time to heal, a time to break down. All right. What's breaking down? The society. All right. The morals, the confidence of the people. Okay. It says in a time to build up. All right. So we read a time to kill. That's in the air, man. That's the spirit across the world right now, dealing with these wars, dealing with, how Esau is just pretty much letting it be known, because they're not hiding it anymore, of what their true intentions is when they come in and take over nations, man. All right. Nobody's buying the propaganda anymore. People are waking up, calling them out. They're protesting. There's people, countries are raising up because they're preparing for war. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. I talked about that the other day. Matter of fact, a few lessons that I brought out dealing with the time of mourning. All right, the state of the earth, the planet, the people in it, the living conditions here. All right, the state of death that's out here. The people dying left and right, dropping dead behind the jabs that they took. Okay, the toxic food that we eat. All those things tie into the mourning. All right. And the time to dance, it says a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, right? Partnerships going out the window, alliances breaking up, okay? It says a time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away. It says a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. All right. So we're in the midst of that. That's kind of what I wanted to build up until we get into the main part of this show here. All right. This is the time of hate, in a time to hate, in a time of war. Right. So going back to what we're talking about here, dealing with ICE. And I want to play this video as well. But it says, Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE saw a 120% jump in its workforce following an unprecedented nationwide recruitment campaign that shattered quote unquote expectations. After 12,000 employees and officers were hired in a few months, the agency said in a statement on January 3rd, quote, after receiving more than 220,000 applications from patriotic Americans. All right, these are the Edomites, man. To join ICE, the agency blew past its original hiring target of 10,000 new officers and agents within a year, ICE stated. In effect, it has more than doubled ICE personnel from 10,000 to 22,000. So let's play this video real quick. Okay. All right, the ring of fire here. ICE prepares for war.
ICE is doing a new hiring push. They are calling it wartime recruitment. That is a quote. That is actually what they're calling this. Okay. And you know, that language is dangerous. Okay. So anyway, here are the facts. ICE had so much trouble hiring in 2025. I mean, for months, they couldn't even fill jobs. They offered huge signing bonuses. I think they offered student loan forgiveness, faster hiring, and basically like lower standards. And still, they struggled to get enough people. Now it's 2026, and ICE believes this year will be different. Why? Well, because, you know, Congress, with the help of 8 Democrats who shall not be named, passed a massive funding bill. I mean, ICE now has a lot more money. I mean, more money for ads, more money for bonuses, more money for training, even more money for detention and transport. They are trying again, but this time the strategy has changed a little bit. They are not aiming at everyone anymore. They are
bear with me.
strategy has changed a little bit. Specific, show you like official memos and things from the Justice Department and from DHS. They are recruiting people at gun shows, people at UFC events, people at NASCAR races, people who follow tactical and military content.
Yeah. These are all Edomites, man. He said they recruiting people at NASCAR and, you know, shooting shows and shit. Okay. You know, we've been going through the videos of, you know, militia groups, you know, working out and training and shit. You know, neo-Nazis, you know, they showed the videos. The brother Arrows of the Nation, he posted the video of these neo-Nazi groups training. Who are they training for? You Jakes. Okay. This is why, as he's going through, right, we read here, ICE announces a historic 120% increase in manpower. All right. These Edomites are banding up to prepare war against Jake, you tribes. But you still think it's a game. Okay? Let's finish it out.
Follow tactical and military content. The message is simple. This is a mission. This is a frontline job. This is about force and control. Remember, guys, ICE is part of the Department of Homeland Security, which is not a branch of the military. It is a civil law enforcement. Their, you know, new language now sounds like war. The goal is numbers, more agents, more detention staff, more people on the ground as fast as possible. And here's why that matters. I mean, language shapes behavior. Who you recruit shapes culture, shifts reality and opens the door for, I'm going to say it, more racists to carry a badge and gun in public.
That's it. That's it. These Edomites, they're loving this shit, man. Okay, they can't wait to get rid of Jake. Isaiah 10, 5 and 6. You know, the Lord gave the Assyrian the charge, all right, to tread Jake down like the mire in the streets real quick. Let's get Ezekiel. I was thinking about Ezekiel 7, right? Ezekiel 7 and 23. Let me pull it up. My computer moving a little slow. Bear with me. Okay. Ezekiel 7 and 23. Make a chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes and the city is full of violence. Right? Jake is getting ready to see it, man. How else can we put this to you? Right? This is why we've been, exhorting you Israelites out there, you Jakes, to repent and to turn back. All right? Without the covering of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, you're through. Okay? We're going to see where all that scoffing is going to lead you, all the mockery and shit, as I talked about yesterday. We're going to see what that's going to get you, man. Jeremiah 51 and 46. Unless your heart faint and you fear for the rumor that should be heard in the land, a rumor should both come in 1 year, and after that, another year should come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. All right, definitely going to be a violence in the land soon to come. All right, this is what they're prepping for. Okay.
For racists to carry a badge in language shapes behavior. Who you recruit shapes culture, shifts reality, and opens the door for, I'm going to say it, more racists to carry a badge and gun in public. When you frame a job as a wartime, activity, you change how people see the public. Immigration enforcement is, again, civil law. It is not combat. There is a distinct difference. The Constitution still applies. Courts still apply. Due process still applies. None of that has changed, but it is like being actively ignored at a very high level. ICE is, betting that more money, harder messaging, and lower standards will fix last year's hiring failure. I mean, the question is not, can they hire more people? The question is really, what kind of force are they building? Because the numbers they want is more like the size of a small military, not like a, regular law enforcement department, even if it was federal. That force will be operating in America against, American communities. That is this story. And that is really why this matters. Thank you for watching. I am Jared Zisser, and this is
the so-called American communities. He's talking about the Jake community, the black and brown community. All right, read the room, read between the lines, man. All right, this is Ezekiel 21. All right, because hey, I saw somebody in the comment section. Hey, the sword is ready, it's furbished. All right, this is Ezekiel 21 and 12 in the NLT. It says, son of man, cry out and wail. Pound your thighs in anguish, for the sword will slaughter my people and their leaders. Everyone will die. Right? Matter of fact, let's start up. Salakia. We got straight to the point, but hey, it's the spirit. Ezekiel 21 and 8 NLT. Then the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua said to me, son of man, give the people this message from the Lord. See, we were commanded to warn Jake, man. The Lord said, give them warning from me. Give the people, which people? You Israelites. Give the people this message from the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua. A sword is being sharpened and polished. It is sharpened for a terrible slaughter and polished to flash like lightning. Now will you laugh? Those far stronger than you have fallen beneath his power. Yeah. Now will you laugh? Right? Shit ain't gonna be funny then. Okay? You see what you see what 2026 is already bringing in, man. Shit is not going to be a laughing matter soon to come. All right. Verse 11. Yes, the sword is being sharpened and polished. It is being prepared for the executioner, right? Which is who? Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay. And he's going to use Esau to do it. The sword of the Most High. Okay. It says, verse 12, son of man, cry out and wail, pound your thighs in anguish for the sword will slaughter my people and their leaders. Everyone will die. All right. Great judgment Okay. Verse 13, it will put them all to the test. Okay. The Spirit has been speaking heavily through the brothers about, us being preparing our minds for the test, for the straight gate, man. Our faith being tried, man. Standing upon all the principles that we've learned in this walk, man. We're getting ready to be tested, man. Okay. It says, what chance do they have, says the sovereign Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai. Verse 14, Son of man, prophesy to them and clap your hands. Take the sword and brandish it twice, even 3 times, to symbolize the great massacre. The great massacre facing them on every side. You see, man, who's listening? God damn, these Edomites are ready, man. We've been warning Jake for years, but what Jake do? Scoff, laughed at us, turn to the side, plug their ears. Okay. This is judgment against you niggas that despise the Lord's reproof, that didn't want to hear the Lord's correction, that didn't want to turn to the Lord. All right. It was grievous unto you to repent, to humble down. Okay. It's getting ready to go down now. All the unfaithful shall die in the unfaithfulness, man. The Lord is preparing this for the wicked of our people. Right. Let's get a little bit more. Back in Ezekiel 21 and 14 again, right? Latter half. Then take the sword and brandish it twice, even 3 times, to symbolize the great massacre facing them on every side. Verse 15, let their hearts melt with terror, for the sword glitters at every gate. It flashes like lightning. It is polished for slaughter. O sword, slash to the right, then slash to the left, wherever you will, wherever you want. I too will clap my hands, and I will satisfy my fury. I, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, have spoken, man. The Lord is telling you, okay? This is happening here, man. This is about to go down. This ties into Jacob's trouble, man. All right? That's the great massacre. Okay? Another siege of Jerusalem is coming, man. Jeremiah 30 and 6, it says, I started 4. Jeremiah 30 and 4, and these are the words that the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, all right, northern, southern kingdom, all right, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, Hispanics. But thus said the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Okay? Ask you now and see whether a man doeth travail of child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. All right, giving you the idea of what's to come, man, on how bad it's going to be. All right, it says, alas, for that day is great. All right, we just read about that in Ezekiel 21 about the great massacre. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. The he represents the elect. All right, those that are going to be covered in these times of trial. Okay, death, calamity. You see? So let's get into the main part of the lesson here. All right, just wanted to bring that out. Right, but hey, this was in the media or the news here, right? So this is from the Atlantic. Okay, the headline here, it goes into the fuck around and find out presidency. Mind you, like I said, this is news. This is in the news, man. Okay, the fuck around and find out presidency, man. Hey, Trump is the fucking triple OG out here, man. It says Trump, Reagan, and Monroe wouldn't approve of the language, but a doctrine is a doctrine, even if it's only 5 words long. All right. So you see that Trump got the whole world in shambles, man. And this is all prophecy anyway, right? Let's read a little bit here. I want to get to the point. These 2 paragraphs here. It says in Marco And Marco Rubio's telling the stunning events on Venezuela and Saturday illustrate an essential truth, possibly the essential truth about Donald Trump's presidency. Global leaders cross him at their peril. I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. Trump's Secretary of State told reporters at Mar-a-Lago just hours after the capture of Nicolas Maduro, world leaders could be forgiven for not understanding the simplicity of the Trump doctrine, especially those who assume that the world's dominant superpower still possesses complicated mechanisms for the manufacture of foreign policy strategies. The country that gave the world the Truman Doctrine and Reagan Doctrine, as well as Trump's apparent favorite, the Monroe Doctrine, which we'll talk about that in a second, the Monroe Doctrine. It says, now embraces the plainest and most ostentiously bellicose of national security policies. Fuck around and find out. Trump's own Pentagon chief, the self-styled until Congress approves the title change, Secretary of War Peter Hegseth, said as much when he told the nation that Maduro effed around and he found out, man. The pride of Esau, bro. Right? The fuck around and find out presidency. That reminded me of when I read that, I was thinking about Psalms, the 10th chapter, how he puffed at his enemies. You know? Let me get that real quick. Yeah, Psalm, the 10th chapter. Right? So this is Psalm 10. And let's go to the point. All right. Matter of fact, we'll start at the top. Let's go to the top. All right. A prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. This is Psalm 10:1. It says, "Why standest thou afar off, O Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai? Why hidest thou self in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor." Right? The wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor. Okay? It says, the wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Verse 3, for the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. Yahweh Shemel Shai is not in all his thoughts. And you can look at these Edomites and see the pride and, you know, their non-belief in the Lord, you know. Hell, they boast about it, as we read, right? Verse 5, the point, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. Yeah, and that's what reminded me in this headline on this fuck around and find out presidency, right? This is Trump puffing at his enemies, man. Trump is telling the planet that you don't want the smoke, right? It's the spirity coming in. This is why I want to talk about the that Monroe Doctrine too. But let's play this video real quick, and we'll get to that. Right? Just thinking out loud. All right. Matter of fact, let me finish this off before we go to it. Back in Psalm 10:5 again. His ways are grievous, are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. Verse 6, he saith in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. And this is what we're seeing out of America through Trump right now. All right. You know, that they'll never be in adversity. They'll never be removed from power. They're the ones that control the show. You know, this is what's happening. Okay. The fuck around and find out presidency, right?
This attack is Trumpism in a nutshell. Erratic, deadly, and unpredictable. And it's not just reshaping American or regional politics, it is reshaping the world order in 3 ways. Tonight we'll tell you how. Number 1, Trump's actions mirror the rule of the jungle, where might is right. Just think about it. The US did not give proof of Venezuela's drug smuggling. They did not conduct a proper trial. They did not approach the United Nations. They simply barged in and kidnapped the Venezuelan president. Why? Because they could. Now, don't get us wrong.
Yeah, I gotta add on that. Hey, that's that Micah 2. Salaki, I'll go back, But she said, why? Because they could. Because they can. Right? Micah 2. Because remember, the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. All right? Bear with me, I'm moving a little slow. All right? Micah 2, right? Woe to the oppressors, right? And we know who that is, right? Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Okay? Trump is showing the world that he can do what the fuck he want to do, right? Remember, fuck around and find out presidency, man. Hey, that's wild, man. You see? Let's go back. Bear with me. Micah 2:2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even the man in his heritage. Right? We're seeing this play out live.
They did not conduct a proper trial. They did not approach the United Nations. They simply barged in and kidnapped the Venezuelan president. Why? Because they could. Now, don't get us wrong. Maduro was an autocrat who deserved to be ousted. His policies crushed dissent and impoverished his people. So, yes, he deserved to go, but not like this. Not through a blatant violation of Venezuela's sovereignty. And this is classic Trump. He does the same in domestic politics as well. Act first, justify later. Look at all his executive orders. Look at how he violates courts and laws. It's the same strategy in foreign policy as well. Ignore due process. If you have the power, just use it. And rest assured, other countries will take note. What's stopping Thailand from escalating against Cambodia? What's stopping China from invading Taiwan? What's stopping Russia from kidnapping Zelensky? If the US can do it, why can't they? That's the message that is rippling across the world. Number 2, Trump is reviving spheres of influence. Remember old Cold War days. The US and the Soviet Union carved up the world. They had their own backyard regions. And looks like Donald Trump is returning to that thinking he has repeatedly emphasized on the Western Hemisphere. He wants total American dominance in this region. And in other places? In other places, he's willing to take a step back. Trump has undermined Ukraine's position against Russia. He's weakened American ties to Europe, and all of this plays into Moscow's hand. And the same in Asia. Last November, Trump called for a G2 summit. G2 stands for the group of two. And who are these two? China and the US. Trump called a summit of China and the US. It tells you how Donald Trump is thinking. Two big powers shaping politics and rules. And the rest, simply watching from the sidelines. Next is number 3, a new battle for resources. Such conflicts dominated the 1980s, the 90s, and 2000s. You had countries being invaded for their natural resources. Most often it was oil. But recently that was changing. Resources did not trigger the Ukraine war. They did not trigger the Gaza war or the clashes between India and Pakistan and Thailand and Cambodia. They were purely political and strategic. But Trump is openly waging wars for natural resources. So in Venezuela's case, it is oil. In Greenland's case, it is rare earths. And even for peace deals, resources are front and center. Ukraine had to sign away their rare earths to Donald Trump. Only then did Trump open the aid supply. So the old ideological and political alliances are weakening. Instead, resource-driven partnerships are growing. I know all of this sounds overwhelming. The question is, how can a country like India navigate this churn? What are India's lessons from this crisis? For starters, the fault lines are sharpening. Such conflicts will force India to take a definite stand. We saw that first during the war in Ukraine, and we are seeing it again with Venezuela. Each time, India has responded with caution. New Delhi did not condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, so naturally we did not condemn the US either. But such balancing acts will become tougher in the future because divisions and conflicts are sharpening. And beyond that, India will have to get used to a new style of diplomacy, which is fast-paced, highly materialistic, highly public, and very loud. It's very different from India's traditional style. Having said that, there is a silver lining. All these conflicts are weakening the existing world order, an order dominated by the West. Chances are it will give way to something new, perhaps a multipolar system, and that's something that India has always been pushing for.
The world doesn't fit in boxes.
There you go, man. So we're in the midst of that transition as we talk about. You know, the old world order is being thrown out, and they're ushering in the new. Right, real quick. Psalm. This is Psalm 73, and I started verse 1. Psalm 73 and 1. It says, "Truly, Yahweh Shai is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone; my steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." Verse 4, "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm." Right? So again, we understand that Esau has the power. Okay? This is why he's boasting. This is why they're talking shit. Okay? This is why they're saying that, look, anything, any resources they want, they're going to take it. They can go anywhere and have it. All right? This is what's on display now. Okay? That boastful power, right? It says, verse 5, "They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men." So yeah, so that's the point. As she was going through earlier in the video. They have the power to do what they want to do. They're not bound by what's it called, the international laws and shit like that. Okay, Esau does what he wants to do. It says, "Therefore, pride compasseth them about as a chain." The pride, violence covered them as a garment. All right, this is who he is. All right, he is the man of violence, the man of sin. Okay, the son of perdition, destruction. It says, "Their eyes stand out with fatness; they have more than a heart could wish." Yeah, going back to the having the planet in its possession, the gold, the resources, the minerals, the oil, right? It says, "Their eyes stand out with fatness; they have more than a heart could wish." He has everything. "They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily." This is why I keep going back to this article, man. Okay? They speak loftily, proudly, arrogantly. Okay? Let's go back. All right, is there any more in there? Got a lot of tabs open. Bear with me. All right. Revelation 6 and 4, "And there went out another horse that was red." Horse symbolizes power. That red is tied back to Esau, Edom. "And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth." Look at the earth. This is the state of the world right now. To take peace from the earth. The earth is in turmoil and shambles, man. Okay? Nations are divided. People are divided, to take peace from the earth. It says, to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. So that sword is his blessing. Okay? The wars, the famine, the pestilences, his armies, his technology. Okay? And what's the spirit right now? People are ready to kill each other. As we read earlier in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, a time of war and a time of hate. This is where we at. So let's move on, right? So this is from the headline here from Epoch Times. It says, "Trump hints at possible military operations in Colombia, Mexico, expects Cuba's downfall, right? This is all tied into that Monroe Doctrine that we're going to read in a minute, right?
¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo genocida, inmoral y fascista! Cuba condena y denuncia esas acciones como un acto de terrorismo de Estado, un asalto criminal contra nuestra América, zona de paz, una violación de la soberanía de una nación que es símbolo de independencia, dignidad y solidaridad, y un ataque inaceptable al derecho internacional. No, señores imperialistas, este no es su patio trasero ni territorio en disputa. No aceptamos ni reconocemos la doctrina Monroe, ni reyes ni emperadores trasnochados. La tierra de Bolívar es sagrada. La agresión militar a una nación de paz que en nada amenaza a Estados Unidos y el secuestro de un presidente legítimo electo soberanamente por su pueblo. No puede haber silencio ni aceptación de ese acto de terrorismo de Estado, solo comparable con los crímenes contra la humanidad que comete el sionismo israelí en la franja.
Real quick, what did he say about the Z? Let me see if I can pull it back. My computer's moving.
En la franja de Gaza.
Salakia.
Que comete el...
Right. So as you read here, all right, in the closed caption, right? Everybody's talking about these people, man. They're involved in everything. Okay?
Sionismo israelí en la franja de Gaza. El muy oscuro objeto del deseo imperialista es el petróleo venezolano. Son las tierras y los recursos naturales de Venezuela. Por Venezuela y por supuesto también por Cuba, estamos dispuestos a dar hasta nuestra propia sangre, hasta nuestra propia vida, pero a un precio muy caro. No son tiempos de medias tintas, son tiempos de definiciones y de tomar partido frente al fascismo y la barbarie imperial.
Yeah. So these nations, you know, they're ready to stand up. Salaki, let me pull it back up. All right, they're standing up. Bear with me. It took my screen away. Hold on. Where we at? Bear with me. Hold on. All right. So, yeah. So, like I was saying, as you heard in the video, all right, nations are ready to stand up against Trump, against America, you know? This is, let me go there real quick. Goodness gracious, get the hell out the way. All right, here we go. Moving super slow. Isaiah 13. Okay. Isaiah 13 and verse 4 says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord, Yahweh Shemel of hosts, mustereth the host of the battle. All right, the Lord is raising up the kings, man. He's raising up these nations to prepare for the battle, for war. Okay. So I'm going to go into this, he called it the Monroe Doctrine, right? The Monroe Doctrine, are Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico the next targets? Or will someone else be first instead? All right, these are all the so-called Latino nations, countries, and whatnot. Okay, but I want to read the point here, right? So it says, we are witnessing the most profound shift in U.S. foreign policy that we have seen in decades. It is going to have enormous implications President Trump and his team have determined that the entire Western Hemisphere is our sphere of influence, all right? So the game plan is to take over the whole entire Western Hemisphere, all right? They're all going to be under the influence and rule of America. That's what he's saying, right? That the entire Western Hemisphere is our sphere of influence. If somebody is doing things in the Western Hemisphere that we do not like, we will intervene. If that requires military action, President Trump will pull the trigger. Many have been comparing Trump's agenda for the Western Hemisphere to the Monroe Doctrine, right? Here it is right here, right? So it says the Monroe Doctrine, which he called the Donroe Doctrine, right? It says the Monroe Doctrine, named after its architect, former President James Monroe in 1823, is one of the most consequential U.S. foreign policy agendas in the 19th century. It began as a largely symbolic document that stated American opposition to it began a largely symbolic document that stated American opposition to new or expanding European involvement in the Americas after centuries of colonial activity in the region. It would go on to become a significant element of U.S. foreign policy toward the region for decades, though it had been increasingly criticized by academics and policymakers for being used to justify interventions in Latin America. All right. So Esau is telling the Northern Kingdom tribes that he's getting ready to take over all their countries, man. Just to sum it all up. Okay. This is that man. Habakkuk, got to get that. All right. This is the double. You know, all of Latin America is going to be under Western order, basically. All right. This is Habakkuk 2 and 5. It says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, right? The wine going into his philosophies, the democracy. All right. We're hearing about this this Monroe Doctrine, which you call the Donroe Doctrine, right? It says because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. Neither keepeth at home. What is he talking about? Taking over all of Latin America, man. What did he say in the headline again? The Donroe Doctrine are Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico the next targets, or will someone else be first instead, man? Okay. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell and as death, right? Everywhere he goes, he causes destruction, death, right? He wants the whole, as he said, he wants the whole Western hemisphere under his control, right? Who enlarges his desire as hell and as his death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Yeah, this is an example of that. Okay, he wants all the so-called Latin America, man. Right, and it was heavy. I talked about how the nations are standing up. Right, you had the Colombian president. What did he say here? Let's pull this up. Colombia President Gustavo Petro taunts Trump, "Come get me, I'm waiting." All right, you know. It says Colombian President Gustavo Petro challenged President Donald Trump on Monday to quote, "Come get me," one day after Trump said Petro's days running the Latin American country are numbered. This man is talking big shit. "I'm waiting for you here," Petro continued. "Don't threaten me. I'll wait for you right here if you want to," quote. His response came after Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One that Petro could soon suffer the same fate as recently captured Venezuela dictator Nicolas Maduro, right? This man is on a rampage, bro. Okay? That's the spirit. Let me get something real quick. Thinking out loud. You know? Because all these nations they're ready to fight, man. I gotta ask some more on that. Joel, right? Was thinking about that too. All right, Joel 3:9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And this is actually going on in the spirit, man, over here on the Western Hemisphere and also on the other side of the world. China, Russia, Iran, different countries in Africa. All right, they're preparing for war. Right, that leader from Nigeria, he said when they bombed Nigeria, he said this is a time for leaders to get their hands on nuclear missiles. That's what he said. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hook into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. All right. So now they have the nuclear capability. They're standing up. All right. They're drawing alliances together. They're prepared to fight against the Western hegemony, man. Right. It says, so that's what I was thinking about, just the fact that, these nations are not going for this shit, man. All right. This is why I said this is wartime heavy headlines that's going on. Right. Anyway, moving on. Right. This one caught my eye the other day. CBS News, altered and misleading images proliferate on social media after Maduro's capture. All right. So there's different AI generated images of Maduro, after he had got captured by America and all of that. So, this is the time of deception, great confusion. All right. You ain't gonna know what to believe and what not to believe and all of that. That's why, like the example yesterday, you had the young brothers in Chicago, that had their YouTube video altered through YouTube, right, through the AI or whatnot. But the brother made a point. He said that everybody doesn't have the discernment, through the spirit to be able to tell if a video is AI or not, man. You see what I'm saying? So I thought that was a heavy point, man. So there's going to be a lot of shit being thrown out there to to generate, false news and to get people riled up and, all of that, man. So I just thought that was interesting too, right? Anyway, here's some more news before we wrap this up. Just a couple more things. All right. Wartime heavy headlines. So it says, this is yesterday, Iran protests enter 9th day as Trump renews intervention threat, right? Because as we know, the least of the flock should draw them out, all right? The tiny tops are going to draw America into nuclear war as we see it. So it says a wave of protests sparked by Iran's failing economy has continued for a 9th day as President Donald Trump renewed his threat of U.S. intervention. See that? Videos published online on Monday showed demonstrations in the capital of Tehran and the southwestern city of, I can't pronounce that name. It says human rights activists have said protests have taken place in 26 of the country's 31 provinces since last week, and that at least 19 protesters and one member of the security forces have been killed. Trump warned on Sunday night that Iranian authorities would, quote, be hit very hard if more protesters die. So this dude is telling the world that, look, they're going to intervene on everything, man. Okay? These are the beginnings of war now, man. Right? Let's play that.
Is Iran preparing for war? Iran, Israel, and U.S. tensions are escalating. The Islamic Republic is on the edge due to internal protests.
Bear with me.
Economic instability. Is Iran preparing for war? Iran, Israel, and U.S. tensions are escalating. The Islamic Republic is on the edge due to internal protests and economic instability. And in the latest, Tehran has conducted major military exercises as it fears that Israel will take advantage of the situation and attack its territory once again. On the ground, it's been the 9th day of unrest in the country. Deadly clashes between protesters and security forces have escalated after demonstrations first sparked by anger over the rising cost of living entered a second week. At least 20 people, including 3 children, have lost their lives so far. Protests featuring slogans criticizing the Iranian authorities have been reported in Tehran, Shiraz in the south, and in areas of western Iran where the movement has been concentrated. Iran's head of judiciary has asserted that the country will offer no leniency to rioters, though people have the right to demonstrate. Remember, protests triggered by cost of living crisis have expanded to 78 cities across 26 provinces so far. At least 222 locations across Iran have witnessed protests, street demonstrations, or labor and trade strikes. At least 990 citizens have been arrested, including 40 minors. The protests
it's all types of instability going on out there, man. And you know that the West is involved.
Have concentrated in parts of the West with large populations of the Kurdish and Lor minorities. Amid the escalating tensions, Iran has conducted a missile launch and air defense system test exercise, including in Tehran and Shiraz. This comes amid fears among the leadership that America and Israel could use the protests as a weapon to target the Islamic regime. The IRG.
You heard that? That's why he was saying if any more protesters get killed, he's saying that the U.S. is going to have to intervene. You say that? So that's always been the play that they run. You know, let's hear that again.
She does. This comes amid fears among the leadership that America and Israel could use the protests as a weapon to target the Islamic regime. The IRGC.
Yeah, that's how they're going to infiltrate.
GC has not issued an official statement confirming the nature or scope of the military activity. And to add to the speculation over Iran's future moves, the country's authorities have also posted several banners across Tehran threatening further attacks against Israel and US bases in Qatar. These are the images of the banner installed near the former Israeli embassy in Tehran. The graphics show coffins draped in Israeli and American flags with the text, "Watch out for your soldiers."
Exactly. Hey, I told you, hey, these nations, they want to get at the West. All right. That it's called the axis of resistance, man. All right. All these Ishmaelite nations are banding together against the US and Israel hegemony. All right. That goes into 2nd Ezra 15. All right. The dragons of Arabia, the Carmenians, right?
Actions or statements raised by figures such as the Prime Minister of the Zionist regime or some radical American officials regarding Iran's internal affairs amount under international norms to nothing more than incitement to violence, incitement to terrorism, and incitement to killing. The Islamic Republic of Iran and our armed forces are vigilantly safeguarding Iran's territory, and we have no intention of relying on or trusting the words of the Zionist regime. For us, the duplicity of this regime has been proven.
The developments come even as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that he will not let Iran restore ballistic missile program. President Donald Trump has reviewed intervention threat. He has warned Iran that it will get hit very hard by the US if more protesters die during the demonstrations that have entered the second week. Trump's remark has escalated tensions between the countries after America bombed Iranian nuclear sites in June.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
The demonstrations are the most significant in Iran since the 2022 movement sparked by the death in custody of Mahsa Amini. She had been arrested for allegedly violating Iran's strict dress code for women.
There you go. All right. Before we wrap this up, all right, let's see what else we have. Okay. So this plays into a lot of the instability that's going on right now in Iran. It says currency collapse and 40% inflation fueled deadly clashes across Iran prompting nationwide shutdown. All right. So the West is all involved, bro. Okay. Economic protests over soaring prices and a collapsing currency have spread across Iran. The unrest has turned deadly, with multiple protesters and one paramilitary member fatalities. The government has shut schools and public buildings in a bid to suppress the movement. Officials acknowledge, quote, legitimate demands, but pair this with a security crackdown. The crisis echoes past patterns of digital blackouts and violent suppression by the regime. All right. And we're not going to read all of that. So that's the latest news that's going on in Iran. All right. Again, the least of the flock should draw them out. So we understand that America is going to get involved real soon. All right. And then the last point before we wrap it up, as I showed this before, Venezuelan acting president blames disease for Maduro's capture. All right. So as we talked about before, the tiny tops are all involved through and through this shit, man. You know, but that's the time we in right now. I want to see if I got any closing scriptures. All right. But it's getting ready to go down, man. All right. This is Jeremiah 50 and 23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? All right. That's Babylon, America. The hammer of the whole earth. Okay. How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? All right. That's the future. Okay. The destruction of this place, man. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai. The Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. All right, the nuclear missiles. For this is the work of the Lord power, Yahweh Shem Yahushai of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. Right? The voice of them that flee and escape of the land of Babylon declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai, our power, the vengeance of his temple, his people. Call together the archers against Babylon, all you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she have done. Do unto her, for she have been proud against the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai, against the Holy One of Israel. See that? So that's the time we in, man. America is about to be rewarded by Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. And all these news articles that we went through is all the build up to that point. Okay. The so-called fuck around and find out presidency, man. This is hilarious, man. All right. But these Edomites, you know, they're getting ready to eat them words, man. You know. So that's pretty much it. You know, I pray that this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect out there, man. All right. We're going to keep our eyes on everything that's going on. All right, the different tensions between these countries and whatnot, the wars. All right, and see what happens next, man. 2026. It's already been a hell of a year. Shalom.